And welcome to another episode of JP and the Beanstalk.
Oh, we are here. There's great energy in the gym. It's great to be back, Beans. Good to see you.
Feels good, yes.
Doesn't it feel great?
We're here.
Doesn't it feel great?
Back in the saddle.
It's absolutely fantastic. Yep. Things are rightening in the universe. Not an actual word, but we're going to use it anyway.
Works.
It 100% does. Iowa is superior to Wisconsin in every way, once again. So, way to go, Hawks. Suck it, Bucky. And I almost brought myself a brew of Wisconsin origin to sip tonight in direct honor of my Hawks and direct disgrace towards Bucky. But forgot. So I'll also have to wait till I get home.
Tough.
That's all right. I'll still pouring out for my homies. And that's the kids say. But good weekend so far. So excited to be here and keep the good things rolling. Listen, it's recap season, baby.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
We're
rolling.
A slew of content to recap all of a sudden. It's very similar to the weather where we've had a drought, right? A severe lack of rain. Then all of a sudden, the last few days, the heavens open forth and here come the waters. Well, just in the same way that we have had a drought of content, we now have an absolute overflow, a deluge of content to recap for you good folks. And we are excited to do it today. So, real quick, let's run through what we're going to be recapping on this fine episode for you. We have Venom, The Last Dance. We have Agatha All Along, which just wrapped up. We have the Marvel look-ahead trailer. That was a pleasant little surprise.
That was a nice touch.
And by little surprise, I mean brief with a good amount of impact. So we'll get into that. That's very exciting to talk about. We have a new trailer for the Skeleton Crew to recap. Oh, that's a lot to recap, Mr. Beans. We are stoked. There's, of course, going to be another fantastic classic JP and the Beans top 5. And we'll even sneak another comics recommendation of the episode in on you. And fear not, yes, there is fresh news to talk about and related to casting of the Green Lantern series. So it's just the gift that keeps on giving. I expect between now and when the show actually releases, we'll have a new cast member to talk about every single episode. This might be setting my expectations a tidge bit high, but at this point, come on.
What an odd touch.
Isn't it strange?
You don't hear anything else about anything, and it's just like, hey, Green Lantern guy. Every other week, we recount a new person.
It's great. I think it's great. So, without further ado, Beans, let's get into it. Venom, The Last Dance. Dear sweet Tom Hardy taking another swing in the ring with Venom. Round 3, as it were. Tom Hardy, of course, starred. We had Juno Temple in a supporting role. So thanks, Juno.
Ted Lasso.
From Ted Lasso.
It was weird not hearing her with a British accent. I'm not going to lie.
I kind of wish you would have kept it, right?
Well, her British accent's thick.
Yep.
Like, I had trouble keeping up with it sometimes watching the show.
Sure.
And just to go from that to this is almost jarring.
Yeah, there is no doubt.
She did great. Don't hear me saying she can't do an American accent. She can. She did just fine. I couldn't tell she was British, but
it's very, 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 very different.
It was crazy. It's like hearing Tom Holland speak British after watching Spider-Man, and you're like, oh wait, he is from England. Throws you off.
Yeah. So kudos to Miss Temple. Chiwetel Ejiofor, also our guy Mordo, apparently in this universe, is instead a soldier. So that's nice that he gets to mix things up.
Yes.
Really similar energy, though. If you think about it, it's like there's a lot of Mordo that we're seeing here.
Also, yes.
So that's something. Our guy, speaking of Ted Lasso, Danny Rojas.
Yeah.
How about that? Good for Danny. Okay,
football is life.
Cristo Fernandez as barman. So way to go.
Is that his credit?
100%.
It just says barman. They never even gave him a name.
Yep.
Oh.
No, that's it. Speaking of those that have played other characters in Marvel, Rhys Ifans.
Yep.
As Martin instead of Dr. Kirk Connors from
The Amazing
Spider-Man. Because, yeah, why not? Truly, and we won't dive down this path right now, but truly actually mind-blowing that he said yes to this role. First of all, that he was sought out for it. Or maybe he just auditioned. Maybe he's like desperate, like, I got to get my way back in. I got to get back. I'm just out. It's depressing. Maybe he got a little bit of taste in, No Way Home. And he's like, I just got to get all the way back in, you guys. I don't know. That dynamic is wild to me. And of course, not to be missed, Peggy Lou as Mrs. Chen. So great to have you back, Peggy. Great to see you. We'll say, anyway, publicly. Directed by Kelly Marcel. Each Venom movie has had a different director. And Kelly, listen, I don't know anything else that Kelly has done, but let's just get into it for the sake of our takeaways. Okay? We went together. We saw the film. Mr. Beans, what do you got?
The best part was the first minute and a half, and then nothing, and then more nothing, and then more nothing, and then bang, 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 movie over. Woof. Ugh. I was honestly, I kept my expectations low, but somehow it didn't even meet those. To be honest with you, real bummer of a movie. I will say, Noel was badass in this. And we were scared originally when he was announced that, like, oh, what happens? Are they going to kill him right away? Is he going to come in and they're just going to kill him? They didn't do that. They didn't. So props to them for knowing better on that front.
Maybe the best thing they did was they're going to include Null. Don't kill him, right?
Right. And they didn't.
Yep.
But it's also like, it has probably one of the most confusing endings because we're done with Venom, yet you built Null up to be a big bad, so it's like, what's your plan?
This is one of those movie experiences that at almost no point are you able to suspend your disbelief, right? Like when we go to these superhero movies, that is when you're watching, at the very least, a competent superhero movie. We're able to suspend your disbelief and just engage with it for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And out of the span of this movie, which was just a shade over an hour and a half, there was maybe like a combined 5 minutes in that runtime where I felt engaged enough for that to be the case. Otherwise, so much of this viewing experience, I was far too aware that I am watching a not very good movie.
Yeah. No.
That's tough. That's really tough.
And it had a really good start, I would say. Even the 10 minutes when they're in Mexico and on the plane, like as soon as they landed from the plane, you're like, oof, this is rough.
It truly at times felt like it was trying to be a parody with as awkward as the humor, if you want to call it that, was.
It was odd.
Yeah. It was super odd. And it just missed, I think, in truly every way. Okay, I cannot think of a thread to grasp onto in a positive sense where I can go, hey, this element here, this was strong. And that's a bummer to say about a movie that we would prefer would be good, that has actors whose names we just listed out that are very capable individuals that weren't given anything worthwhile to do. Okay, so let's just run through. Let's run through what we didn't like. Okay, because I don't think there's much in the way of positives outside of what you stated, which was, hey, the first few minutes you get a little intro of Null, you get the Venom action with the Mexican cartel members. That's pretty sweet to see. And then after that, it's all rough. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, they don't want to spend any money on using the Venom symbiote is what it seemed like.
Well, no doubt. And that's the big one right there, is when it became clear that it was a problem for Venom and Eddie to fully transform. In other words, for Venom to just be Venom. Listen, that rarely works in a superhero movie. I'm going to give you an example of a objectively better movie, still not a great one because it suffers for this very reason. Iron Man 3. We see very little of Tony Stark in the Iron Man suit in Iron Man 3. That's a problem. We are not there to primarily watch Tony Stark be Tony Stark. He's entertaining. He brings value to the table, but he's not why we're going to watch that movie. We're going there to see Tony Stark as Iron Man. When it's just Tony Stark, sans the Iron Man suit, it makes it tough. A trilogy that I hold in high regard, the Dark Knight trilogy, I think one of the toughest elements of The Dark Knight Rises is you see very little Batman in that movie. And okay, yeah, you get it. You got to put the hero, the protagonist, through the trials and tribulations. That's great. But when it comes at the expense of actually getting to see the hero, this is a problem. And this movie didn't have enough good things going for it to not be putting its most powerful visualization on display. And that is, listen, that's that much more of a problem when you're talking about a character whose appeal is the visual, right? Is the agility, the hulking nature, the malleability of the symbiote, and all of the different variables that brings to the table. You're actually actively saying, no, we want less of that. In the third movie, no less. This should be the most we've seen of Venom, not the least. Very, very odd.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
No.
I would also say they built up like Toxin to be in this movie.
Yeah.
Originally, it felt like at the end of the second one, they're like, oh, here's Toxin.
Yep.
None. He wasn't there. Actually, I believe they even stated, oh yeah, the symbiote that was with you left you, and then we brought you back to life.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so you just took Toxin off the table entirely because why?
Right.
Because this dude's supposed to be stronger than Carnage and Venom combined.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to do what you did over that. That's what Venom 3 should have been. It should have just been Venom versus Toxin. Let's be real.
Sure.
Let him brawl out in New York City as that detective guy wants his vengeance on Eddie. That would have been perfect. There's your third movie.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. But then they just did this weird offshoot. Hey, there's more of you.
Well, there's one of the few things that I thought had potential in this movie, which is Area 51 is getting shut down, disbanded, all that good stuff. But the idea that, hey, beneath the surface of Area 51, there's Area 55, I think is what they referred to it as. It's like, okay, that's clever enough, right? You've got the area below the visual, the public-facing side. It's not a terribly original idea, but from a storytelling mechanics side, hey, that works, right? You got an Area 55. Okay, you're studying the symbiotes. Great. Yep. Makes sense that these would be the people honed in on the symbiote potential. And there would be some internal conflict of there's Juno Temple scientist, Dr. Teddy Payne, who's going, the symbiotes are great. We should trust them. And then, of course, there's the soldier Strickland going, they're the embodiment of evil. We can't trust them. Great. Okay. That tangibly made sense. Original? No. Made sense? Yes. But they weren't able to do anything with that.
No.
That was probably the next best part of the movie is you got the beginning, you got the end, as you said, really nothing in the middle, but at the end you get to see several different symbiotes do their thing. But by this time, we've spent an hour or more on a road trip that was supposed to go from Mexico to New York, but got as far as Las Vegas. So across the border. And that was it. I mean, not even close.
No.
That wasn't even a journey. That was a pathetic bike trip.
No. And because I believe at one point too, didn't the general guy be like, I'm sending the 5 after him or whatever. He made emphasis on the 5, right?
Right.
Well, in the comics, the government made Venom out of Venom. They made 5 symbiotes: Phage, Scream, Riot, Lasher, Agony. Like they made all 5 of those to go up against Venom. Right. So I figured, maybe we are getting the symbiotes. Maybe he's like, screw it, let's give each of these guys a symbiote to go after Venom.
I thought either that or maybe Sony was going to pull something absolutely wild out of their butt, and it was going to be the other 5 members of the Sinister Six.
That would have been hilarious if all of a sudden
Vulture
from the shadows, Morbius.
I had a brief, half-second Sinister Six. No.
Yeah, but he's like, I'm sending in the 5, and then nothing happens.
Right.
Who's the 5? We don't know. It's just random guys.
Actually, nothing happened.
And you're like, what's the point of making an emphasis on 5 people where you're like, this is the 5, and then nothing happened with that? That doesn't make any sense at all. So I I didn't get it. I honestly didn't get it.
No.
None of it made sense to me as a movie. Like, it was just
No, the mechanics
poorly
just
thrown together.
absolutely broke down. Okay. And then let's get into the xenophage, right? Help me understand this one.
The alien.
Yep.
Yes.
So
Alien monster things.
Null is imprisoned. All right. Yep. Tracking. Can't get free. Sure. Evidently powerless. Right. And yet has the power to like transport these beings all over the universe? So which is it? That doesn't make sense.
Well, he can't free himself.
What? I know, but how is he like imprisoned and yet he can create all these portals? That was quite the stretch.
His hand is only loose enough for his wrists to move into a circle.
Right, just a couple fingers and make the shape of a finger, or make the shape of a finger, make the shape of a circle. Bam!
They didn't really explain it.
No, because there's no making sense of that. Like, do better. And here's what better is. Doesn't mean it's great, but it's better. It's, hey, Null has broken free, but he's very weak, right? His power is limited. He can't survive travel on his own, but he's trying to gain this codex to restore his power so now he can travel across the universe. Oh, okay. That explains how he can send others, but, there's a cost to doing this trans-universal travel. All right, now we're tracked. Again, I'm not saying that's great, but it's better than, listen, he's imprisoned. He can't get free. But he has an army at his beck and call that he can send across the universe at the flick of an imprisoned finger. What? Like, it just, again, mechanically doesn't make sense. And then here's the part that was also nuts. Once the first xenophage recognized the codex in Venom, why did it take until the end of the movie for the xenophage and Null to go, let's send more than one? The whole time, it's one.
Yeah.
It's one. But no, I'm sorry, it's actually unkillable because it gets chopped to bits and then it just...
Which is crazy.
I mean, Wolverine and Deadpool wouldn't have survived the shat that xenophage went through.
No, those things were terrifying.
Yes.
Give the movie credit there. Those things were horrifying.
There you go. We found a second thing.
Yes.
We found a second thing that worked. Those were scary.
I still remember watching it do it the first time, and you're like...
Right, the meat grinder, inhale the person, and then just...
I literally was like, oh, God.
It sounded like a weed whacker on roids.
Yeah.
But if the weed whacker was being wielded by a furious giant, and the giant's job was to take out human beings...
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
It just didn't... It's like, come on. Let's make a decision that actually makes sense. Well, there's so little effort towards the thought process.
And again, there's missed opportunities because the guy, Patrick Mulligan, who were like, oh, yeah, he's dead, but he's actually alive. He's supposed to have the toxin symbiote. They took that away.
Yeah.
How more interesting would it have been if he was toxin? Because guess what? He would have had that codex as well.
Correct.
And so it's not just hunting Venom. It's hunting him and Toxin. So they want to kill each other, but then at the same time, they're being hunted. So they probably have to team up towards the end of the movie, fix their problems.
Right.
I feel like those are no-brainers because you can do both. I feel like, not well probably in your department because you have a terrible track record, but you'd like...
Right.
I mean, make it make sense.
Yes. We're going to circle back to that because we're going to go through how we would have made this movie better because we could have. And that's not to hype us up in particular. It's just to say that the bar was so excruciatingly low that it just takes some common sense to make it better. Not even great, just better. Here's the other problem, okay? Here's another problem. This is a fairly common movie trope, right? Especially with superhero movies where the hero meets up with random citizen, or in this case, citizens, and that random helps our hero grow and progress through their interactions, right? I mentioned Iron Man 3 earlier. Tony meets up with, what's the young boy's name? It's right on the tip of my brain.
I got nothing.
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
I know him in my
referring
head.
to.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Look it up while I'm thinking of it, if you would, please, because I'm having a huge brain fart. But
Patrick, Hunter,
no,
Aaron.
I have like Howie in my head. And it's like, it's not Howie. That's hilarious.
That's Dad.
Howard Stark. Okay, sure. Sure. Here's the problem, okay? When the random citizen that the hero meets drives you as the audience member nuts. Harley. Okay. I give myself a little bit of credit for the sound. Harley. Tony Stark meets Harley. They spend a good half-hour screen time together. By the end of their encounter, Tony's a changed character. Great. Effective. In this movie, as soon as Eddie meets up with the hippies, okay, not as soon, not immediately. He has to talk to him first. But once we get about 10 seconds into that conversation, he should have just eaten them. That would have been a better fate. He eats them. They're done. We're moving on. That was such a waste. None of those characters added any tangible progress to Eddie's character. Like, I know what they were going for. They're going for, well, we want to create an opportunity for Eddie to save the boy and the girl, and apparently the mom and dad too. But there was zero emotional attachment. There was nothing tangibly that they brought to the table that added to the story in any way, that progressed Eddie's character in any way. It was brutal. So when that's your hero connects with random citizen and, you know, gains some humanity and character progression, when that's a huge miss and that's where you chose to spend a lot of your time instead of giving us more Venom action, that's a problem.
Agreed.
That's a problem. Yeah.
Absolutely agreed.
Yeah. Not great. And how dare they with Mrs. Chen? Boy, they did her dirty.
What a giant waste of time.
How dare they?
That whole, literally, that it's just part of the waste of time. From there to Vegas, like, that whole thing, I wish he would have just got captured in the van. Or tried to get on the van and then he got captured. Because I'll tell you what, the whole waterfall sequence was awesome. That was good. Let him get caught at that point. Take them both in at that point. And then you'll save yourself 45 minutes of movie. You know what I mean? Because you could have just had them go to the base from there, and you would have wasted no more time. You would have had so much more movie time for other things.
It would have been more hilarious for Eddie and Venom to have gone, okay, we got this plan. We're going to get all the way to New York. That's the destination. They cross the border and are immediately captured.
Yeah, that would have been great.
That would have been so funny. Would have been on brand. Would have made enough sense. It would have progressed the story along further.
As soon as he falls off the plane, even, you could just do it when he lands. There's 20 government agents surrounding them.
100%. Here's the other thing that didn't make sense with the xenophage. All right, so Eddie goes full Venom, and then there you go. There's the blinking strobe light of doom that says, Codex, it's on you. Which I'm not even sure the mechanics of that made sense, because they didn't, but let's just move on. So the xenophage can only see the Codex. Like, as soon as we go back into Eddie mode, it's really that dumb where it can't go, listen, the figure that had the Codex was right there. It changed. Like, seriously?
Well, it only
can't figure that out.
It only sees TV static.
And yet it can pick up human beings that are in its periphery and shred them. Okay.
It's probably just going off of the sensories. I don't know.
It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. No, terrible. Okay. Here's what did make sense, or at least here's what was fun. The last 10 or 15 minutes where we got to see other symbiotes come into the fray. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. No.
To see the symbiotes have some actual action.
That's what we wanted.
Have some actual things to do. Now, I think it's outrageous that they were so overmatched, clearly, by the xenophage. Like, that, how that creature was truly unbeatable is beyond me, and frankly, really not enjoyable. Like, it's not enjoyable when it goes one way or the other. When the hero is unbeatable, that's not enjoyable, because it just diffuses all tension. You know, it's like, listen, they're going to win. We know they're going to win. It's going to be fine. When the villain or the primary antagonist is unbeatable, that's also a problem. Like, there's no path to winning unless we do what they did, which is just make up a way for Venom to encompass the several xenophages and then forcibly drag them underneath the acid bath. Okay. Yep. Again, do the mechanics work? No, they do not. But let's do it anyway. So it was tough. But seeing all of the symbiotes duke it out with the xenophages,
great.
That was really cool.
That's what we came to watch.
100%. What are the name designations of those symbiotes that we got to see?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't think, like I said, my biggest guess would be like the 5 that I talked about earlier would have been like, because that's what I thought originally. I'm like, oh, there's 6 symbiotes there? Yep. 5, 6?
Yep.
So I figured it's those 5 and nothing. Yep. And I'm assuming the purple one is Agony, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, again, they don't really go too in depth with it. Like, I don't know what one the other professor used before that one died.
Yep.
I literally couldn't tell you.
Yep.
So, and it didn't really matter anyways, because they didn't take the time to invest and be like, okay, so this one is Scream, and she's insane, and she can use her hair as whips and stuff like they, you know what I mean? Like you didn't get that time enough. So to me, it didn't even matter. Like they could have looked like them, and honestly, they're still not that symbiote, right? Like I don't even know what symbiote they gave Mulligan.
Sure,
couldn't tell you.
Sure. Right.
Like, I know it wasn't Toxin, clearly.
Right.
Because, again, they made an emphasis that Toxin left him. Pop out.
We would just like you to know he's not with you anymore.
They just did not want to do anything with Toxin in the third one for whatever reason.
I don't know. Yeah. None of us know. Okay. Let's redeem this thing. Let's make it better. Beans, what would you have done?
Yeah. So, I kind of already talked about it a little bit, but for me, I would have made the focus Toxin throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I would have built have Eddie be on the run because they made him. Everybody thinks that he killed Mulligan, and then Mulligan's out here as the Toxin symbiote, seeking his own kind of justice, but still dealing with the fact that what Eddie dealt with in the first one, where he's got to eat human brains to survive, and as a cop, that's probably hitting him harder than it hit Eddie, right?
Sure.
So then have him go after Venom. Venom has to come back to New York for whatever reason. Then you can introduce the government. And have the 5 be in there with Phage, Riot, bring those in as their own 5 to go after those 2, because then you get the monsters that are coming after both Venom and Toxin, and the government's just getting involved, be like, you need to die, for whatever reason, right?
Yep.
And then have your final fight.
Reason for all the symbiotes to have a conflict.
Right, and then have a final fight at Area 55. Mm-hmm. They, between Toxin and Venom, figure out how to kill them. They kill him, shake hands at the end of the day. They figure out their differences. Bang. Mm-hmm. You go off into the sunset. Both of those characters are still around, be used if Sony decides to do something else.
Right.
And then you get rid of whatever. Like, to be honest, I would have had Venom and Toxin fighting half the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, that would have been just 45 of the hour and a half movie. It would have been just Venom and Toxin. And then you just insert player 3 into the mix. However that looks like. And then you could have had the 5 get offed by all the weird aliens coming down, and they would have been fine.
And you could have had Null as the unifying force or reason as to why Toxin and Venom actually team up, right?
Correct.
Because initially during the early part of the movie, they're adversaries, but then when they realize, holy crap, Null is coming, we have to combine our forces in order to have a chance against this guy.
Right. That would have been more appealing because, we got a lot of nothing. So if you get, like I said, if you focus on the relationship between Venom and Toxin and they're just constantly fighting, have them fight like 3 or 4 times. Because that's kind of what we missed out on Venom and Carnage too, right? They fought once. Yep. Like, there should have been a fight earlier in that movie where Venom gets his ass kicked by Carnage. That's exactly how that should have went. And then come back, do the whole final fight or whatever, where they're just, it's the last little straw that they got left to kill him. And then, so I don't understand. And this is probably why it was bad to have 3 different directors direct 3 different movies, because you're going to get 3 entirely different visions.
Right.
So different twice as funny. So I'm guessing this 3rd director was like, I don't want to do anything with Toxin. So Toxin's off the table. Let's take him off the table. It doesn't matter. We're not going to use him.
Not
We
the
want
story
to
I wanna
focus.
tell.
Right. We want to focus on these alien spider brood looking things that will haunt my dreams.
Yeah.
And so it's just the director felt like they didn't want to tell a Venom story.
Well, and what I'm disappointed in from a production standpoint is, Tom Hardy has a producer credit on all three of these movies. And to the point where I think it's safe to assume that without his influence, none of these movies get made in the first place, right? If Tom Hardy, with his name brand back in 2018,
Right.
isn't coming to Sony going, hey, I want to tell this story with this character. I'll be the leading man. I'll put my money towards it. I don't think this movie necessarily gets made.
Right.
Right? And so...
Well, not after the second one, because the first one was really good. The second one was meh. This one was far worse than the second one, even though.
But that's my frustration. It's like, it feels to me like, and I am just making a wide-ranging assumption here, but it feels to me like Tom Hardy's level of interest significantly reduced from movie 1 to movie 3. Because if there's anybody that's going to have the opportunity to control the trajectory of this story, it's him. I mean, the guy has a writing credit on this movie. He and the director are the two writers. And it's like, my guy, like, if this is your character that you want to play, what are you doing to yourself here? How are you writing in the character of Martin and family? Like, what's up? And I enjoy the heck out of Tom Hardy, so I'm not trying to drag him through the mud. And at the same time, I'm thinking, boy, out of anybody that could have helped this go differently from a production standpoint, I would think it could have been him.
Well, I think
so.
It makes you wonder.
Now, I'm not giving credit to Sony. Don't get me wrong. It's not like...
Well, and that's where it comes in, because I go back to Spider-Man 3 with Sam Raimi, who has... I don't know if he's came out and said publicly or not, but it's been known that movie, Sony tampered with that movie quite a bit. So
forced Venom into that movie.
Correct.
Yep.
And so I'm curious to see how much pressure or how much influence they put on those two specifically as a production company.
Yep.
Because again, we've seen them push really good Spider-Man content, right? Yep. They know how to do Venom. They did it in Spider-Man for the PS5. Spider-Man 2, PS5. That was a great reinvention of Venom. Go play it. Fantastic game.
Yep.
But, and, they do the whole null thing too. But regardless, it just makes you wonder their studio, what influence they had on this movie. Because I would like to defend him and assume that they just put more pressure on the movie as each film was going.
Yeah, they don't have a track record of being a strong partner.
No,
when it comes to making these superhero movies,
and they probably also wouldn't gear it in the right direction either, where you would need to rein somebody in and be like, okay, these are too outlandish. This has nothing to do with the movie. They'll probably be like, that's such a great thing to add this family to ground the character.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I'm hoping, honest to God, I hope this is the nail in the coffin.
Correct.
For Sony's Spider-Man universe, but we'll see. But what would you change? Because you didn't really get into that one for you.
You gotta have. Frankly, you can get away with having a story that is half-baked in this movie. Like, the expectations are pretty modest, but you gotta have a Transformers 3 level or scale of symbiote battle.
Yep.
You just do. And the fact that there was so little action. You had it at the beginning, you had it at the end. You wasted CGI resources on a dance scene. Okay. Thought we learned our lesson in Spider-Man 3 that the dancing...
Hey, that has went from something that is terrible to something that is completely meme-worthy. So hate on it all you want. Hate on it all you want, but it came back around and it made it worthwhile.
In really positive ways. that is the single, like, really broad stroke biggest thing that I would change is flood this movie with action. Don't worry if the story makes sense. Like, if you're going to say, man, we really don't have much of a story here, great. Pull symbiotes out of nowhere and have Venom duke it out with them so you can at least create some worthwhile visuals. This just reminded me so much from a viewing experience of watching the most recent Fantastic Four movie with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, where it was started out and you're like, okay, we got something cooking here. We got something cook. Oh, no, it's burned. The kitchen's on fire. The house is destroyed. Oh boy, smoldering ruin. Wow, that turned quickly. That experience of the first Suicide Squad movie, where again, the action was sparse and just non-existent, on top of having a story that didn't need to be told, wasn't compelling. You've heard me say it so many times. You're going to be an action movie. You got to have great action. And you have a character that is built for action. Like, visually, there are few things more weirdly rewarding to look at than Venom on the screen with the big tongue hanging out and then him just going nuts on fools. And we didn't get that. Yeah. So that's what I would have erred on the side of. And I think it's okay for some of these, like what Sony could have done, right? If we want to really pull back and go, Sony, what could you have done better? Don't try and tell a story at the Christopher Nolan level. Don't even try to create a synchronized universe at the MCU level in its prime. Be the Transformers of superhero movies. Be cheesy, be ridiculous, but be visually rich. That's what you can do. Because to your point with the video game, hey, you know what Sony is in the business of and has been in the business of for years? Making outstanding visuals. They can do that. That is in the DNA of their organization. So let's lean into that. That's your strength. Lean into it. If you happen to hit a movie that has a good story to go along with the visuals, well, Yahtzee. There you go. You got one. But you would genuinely have a series of movies that people would have seen and would have kept on going to see if you would have just leaned into the strength that is available to you of, we can make some really, really kick-ass visuals here. They just never did it.
Yeah.
Never did it.
Nope.
In any consistent way.
It's actually, it reminds me a lot of, what was it, which was Star Wars 8 or Star Wars 9? Star Wars 8,
gosh.
where there was not a single lightsaber fight.
Yep.
We didn't have a single symbiote on symbiote fight in this movie.
Yep.
Think about the crime of that.
Mm-hmm.
I go to those movies for one thing. I want to see those fights.
Yep.
And you're taking them away from me.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
Yep. No doubt. Anything else to say on that?
No, I like I said, I hope this isn't a nail in the coffin. Totally, I hope we're done. I hope Craven. Listen, I want that movie to be good. The trailer looks good.
It actually does.
And it pisses me off. Okay?
It might be just good enough.
Because I know I'm going to go watch it, and it's going to be Morbius and Venom 3 all over again.
I'm going to call my shot right here. And this is wrong. So I'll acknowledge that. If there is any of these Sony movies that could hit, it's going to be this one. And again, wrong, because the track record suggests no. The safe bet is to say this won't be good. Yep. But for whatever sick and twisted reason, I'm holding out hope. I am.
This is your second cold take of the year. First one was back in July.
Rising baby movie in the summer.
Yeah. So who should we trust more on this thought process?
Age well, exactly. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. So it's more of me sharing for the hilarity of, what's this guy thinking? I don't know. All right, let's keep moving. Hey, Agatha All Along wrapped up over the last couple of days. I'd like to give a brief recap on Agatha. Here's the deal. This ended up being, and I teased this a couple weeks ago on the pod, this ended up being an encouraging production by Marvel. And here's why. This show did not need to exist. Okay? It did not need to. I know that it's being presented as the middle chapter of a WandaVision trilogy. Okay, that's fine. But it's really not. Like, that's pretty in my opinion, stretching it quite a bit. Quite a bit. It doesn't need to exist, but it does. And if it's going to, boy, if you're going to make it, it might as well be good. And this was a good show, all right? I think what Marvel found here is they recaptured a bit of that Loki magic. And while I was watching the show, I felt a lot of Loki inspiration. And that's not to say that Agatha drew from it in particular, but here's the similarities that I saw, right? First of all, the main character is a villain, anti-hero at best. But really, throughout this series, Agatha is villain to villain, pole to pole, all right? There's what I'm going to call the sleight of hand storytelling structure, where there's, in other words, a lot of flashbacks used to flesh out scenes that you've already seen. So you're kind of going back prior to the scene and then revisiting the scene with that new and refreshed knowledge. The Loki show did that a lot. So showing you what you think is everything, but you don't realize until you see the flashback, oh, I only saw a portion of what was happening originally. That's a great dynamic, but that takes real intentional post-production editing and synchronization between the editor and between the showrunners. So that takes some legit time and effort and energy to pull off successfully. Here's the other real strength of the show. We got introduced to new characters. We'd like to see them again. It wasn't just all right, show's over, we're done with them. Billy Maximoff, aka Wiccan. Yep, let's see more of Billy. That would be great. The look was fantastic. The power set, he didn't get to flex it as much as I'm sure he will in the future, but what he was able to show, horrific. Rio Vidal, aka Death. Listen, Aubrey Plaza is just a national treasure, and she was perfectly cast in this role. He crushed it. So I'm pretty sure, truly, her entire time in Parks and Rec is an audition for this role, and she was outstanding. So we'll get more of her. That's a real strength. I mean, I'm thinking back to the Loki show where we got Morbius. Give me more Morbius.
Mobius.
Did I say Morbius?
Yes.
Oh, farts.
You heard it here, folks.
Owen,
He said, "Give us."
Owen, forgive me.
He said, "Give us more Morbius."
Don't
you
do it.
Heard it here first. He wants more Morbius vampire.
Exile me from the podcast.
Morbius 2 comes out next year,
Disgusting.
thanks to Jordan and his push for more Morbius.
If it does, I will retire from potting forever. Mobius, Mobius, give me Mo, a Mobius. That was fantastic. I mean, so many characters from that show. What was Kihoy Khan's character's name? What was his character in the show?
Great question.
Yep. You get my point, though. Phenomenal. We want to see more of that. That's what we saw in Agatha. It's like, hey, you're introducing new characters that we would enjoy seeing in future Marvel productions. So that was fantastic. Here's the other real strength. This show knew what its identity was, and it leaned into it. It wasn't trying to be an action series in Marvel. It wasn't trying to be what we've seen before. It was a horror-based show, and it worked. It didn't shy away from it, all right? That's fantastic. The character development, this is the most important part. There was actual, tangible, real, live character development, which in the best Marvel shows that we've seen, and of course the movies, but the shows in particular, at the end of their run, all the characters have changed and progressed in some significant ways. Billy starts as Billy, becomes Wiccanized. That's great. Agatha gets literally ghosted. That's fantastic. Rio starts as just Rio, at least as her front-facing self to the audience, and then is revealed as, Death. That's pretty good come up. That's fantastic. Tommy Maximoff is out there. And so now the search for Tommy begins for Billy. So there was some real strong, hey, we started in this place and we finish in a very different, very noteworthy place that this show pulled off. So for as much as this was not my particular cup of tea, and watching the show didn't change that, like I'm not going, I would love to see another season of that. It's just not my flavor. It was well made. It was clearly crafted with care, attention to detail, and they emphasized and pulled off actual character development. When Marvel shows have worked, that's what we've seen. And that worked in this case. So tip of the cap to you, Agatha. It worked out.
Well,
Didn't see that coming.
maybe I will give this a watch, just in the sense of when Vision comes out. I'm sure there's going to be some ties to this show to kind of go into Vision.
Here's my prediction. I don't think you'll have to. And that's why I poo-pooed it's the middle chapter of a trilogy. The biggest thing that's going to come out of this is Billy Maximoff is a tangible human person as Wiccan. Like, he has sorcery powers. That's it. And you don't have to watch the show to understand that. You can. It's worthwhile to see for the sake of the character of Billy. But truly, I think anybody that watched WandaVision, okay, whenever they start coming out with promotional material for Vision Quest, isn't going to feel like, hey, I need to go back and watch Agatha all along. It's my take on it. Again, not to disparage the show. I just think it's not necessary. And I get why they're trying to tie it into the MCU in that way, to just kind of anchor its value. Like, why does this show exist? So I understand that move. But I think Loki as a show kind of existed in a similar fashion, right? Like, we haven't seen in the movies, even the TVA, play a big role outside of course, Deadpool and Wolverine. But in a lot of ways, the Loki show didn't technically need to exist. But we're so very glad that it did.
Yeah.
So there you go. Agatha all along. Well done. Well done. Okay. Moving on to additional bigger and better things. We've had a surprise over the last week and some change. Marvel dropped a look ahead trailer. Isn't that fun? Teasing some of their upcoming productions all the way out to December of 2025. So without further ado, let's rip through them in order of their forecasted release date. So first of all, in the trailer, we got a look at What If Season 3 being released December 22nd of this year. Again, it'll be an episode per day. I believe we've had, been 9 episodes for each season?
I believe so, something like that.
Nine
9 to 10, probably.
9 feels like a pretty decent guess.
Yeah, 9's good.
But I'm also the guy that said Morbius, so don't trust me.
Morbius.
Merry Christmas again, everyone. So What If continues to follow the pattern of coming out at or around Christmas time. My response to this is, sure. The What If series has been perfectly fine. It lives genuinely in a neutral space for me, where it's like, it's been neat. It hasn't been overwhelmingly positive or negative. All right, we're getting some more. That's great. What about you?
Sure, yeah.
Right?
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Like, why not? It was semi-enjoyable the last time. You get a couple good episodes in each season where you're like, that's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's some neat concepts. No question. That's the whole point. Go crazy, explore a little bit. What If Season 3, December 22nd. All right. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, an animated series, dropping January 29th of 2025. Again, I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm going to watch this.
I probably won't.
Which means I probably won't.
I probably won't. I'm more waiting to see if they're going to release a sequel series to Spider-Man from the 90s, like they did for X-Men 97.
Yep.
So if that happens, I will be watching that.
Yep.
But this one, look, I don't need another Spider-Man origin show.
Right.
I just don't. I'm kind of tired of his origin. Like, let's get him out of high school. That's why I'm so excited for Spider-Man 4.
Sure.
Technically, that was announced that was being put into production starting next year. But
right.
That I'm more curious about him having to deal with non-high school related things.
Yeah.
For the love of God.
Yeah. I think this is clearly and this makes all the sense in the world to me. And actually, it's surprising that Disney hasn't been more intentional about releasing this style of content. But this is clearly hey, we're targeting the younger audience here.
Good.
And they should, right? So I don't need to care about this, but they should be targeting the younger audience. This is over a decade ago now. They, meaning Marvel, released a tremendous, actually excellent Avengers cartoon. It's gone through several iterations now, but the particular iteration that I'm thinking of was Avengers, the Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and it gave the origin for various members of the Avengers. They obviously group up and battle the likes of Loki and Kang and so on and so forth, the Skrulls. It was phenomenal. It only lasted 2 seasons, maybe it bled into a 3rd season, so it had a relatively short run. But like my kids love watching that show. I love watching it with them. How truly Disney and Marvel haven't like leaned into that style of content yet is kind of bamboozling. But hopefully this is a turning of that particular page. All right, here we go. Daredevil Born Again, March 4th.
Can't wait.
2025.
Love it. Mark your calendars.
We get to see Matt. We get to see Wilson. We get to see Frank as in Castle.
I've never been more thrilled in my life.
Ooh.
This is going to be dope. Muse looks so scary, dude. Just so 2 pictures in that trailer of him, just like menacing.
Nasty.
It's going to be
character.
awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah. There's nothing they need to show me to convince me to watch that show. We'll be there for it.
I'm praying it's still the same tone. And it looks like it will be.
Yeah. Everything that they've shown has indicated that
don't ease up on the tone.
No, there's no need. I'll be really curious. We got a little bit in this tease of Wilson Fisk with his line towards Matt Murdock in regards to, you've made quite a name for yourself. So Matt at this stage seems to be in a fairly secure, solid place. And again, the whole comics storyline that this season is drawing its title from is when Wilson Fisk figures out who Matt Murdock is and then proceeds to systematically tear him down to the ground, like trying to drive him crazy to the point of suicide, quite frankly. So it makes sense if we're going to get a Matt that feels pretty safe and pretty secure in his spot, and for Wilson to come and say, not so fast.
Suck it.
Yeah. So goodness, no, truly. I hope we get a good, large, not small amount, please, of Frank Castle in the show. Don't you dare tease him and then just sprinkle him in there.
I agree.
Make him part of the main course.
I hope so.
Yep.
It worked the last time.
Let's do it again.
Can't wait.
No. All right. Ironheart, June 24th, 2025. Again, another show.
Mm-hmm.
So not a film. I think that's right. I don't see how Riri Williams at this stage could carry a movie. So that makes sense. Biggest takeaway here is we got our first look at the hood.
Pumped.
Very pumped.
Pumped about that.
Yep.
That's probably the most exciting part of this show.
Yep.
I hope he goes off too.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great.
Well, the show needs a villain.
Right.
Truly. Right.
And a good one.
I remember months ago watching Echo, and leading up to that, we were very apprehensive about how is this show going to be worth a turd. Well, hello, Wilson Fisk.
Thank God.
Right? That
saved the day.
Made such a huge difference. But it's true of every story. Like, you have the protagonist, you need a compelling antagonist. So I think it's a pretty fascinating combination in the sense of you have Riri Williams, who is purely technologically based, and the Hood, who is very much on the supernatural side of things. I think that has all kind of potential, actually, to be an outstanding clash of styles.
Well,
so I'm excited for that.
I'm also just excited to get Iron Man adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's been so long since we've seen somebody
Right.
flying around in a technological suit, not counting Wakanda Forever, okay?
Right.
Like,
Even that's been a while.
right, when they're the main focus,
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's see what this one does.
Yeah, I agree.
I am positive on this one.
Yep, I feel optimistic about that. That to me has a lot of potential. And listen, Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever, solid character, right? Again, we saw her, like, let's see more of that. So looking forward to that for sure. Here's one that I had that wasn't on my radar in the least. Eyes of Wakanda, another animated series set to release August 6th.
And I didn't think it was animated. I thought it was going to be live action. So
Sure.
I'm so pumped for it.
Yeah.
It looks dope.
Oh, listen, Wakanda, like, let's just say we're exploring Wakanda in the present. There's a lot to explore there. So that's fantastic. Let's do that. If we're going back in history into its lore, that's another fascinating case study. So count me in. I think this show has all kinds of potential.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see where they start with it because dude, or like go to 10,000 BC or whatever.
Sure.
Why not?
Right.
That'd be awesome.
Go to when the asteroid hits and the vibranium is first uncovered and discovered. Take us back. Take us back. That'd be great. No, that was a fun. Oh, I didn't know this was happening. So that was really cool. Marvel Zombies coming out around Halloween time.
Yeah, don't care.
Of 2025. This is, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly here, is a, hey, what if season 1, we're taking this and running with it?
Yes. I don't care. I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah.
This one's not one I care about.
I'm not a horror movie guy. It's just not my cup of tea. I understand why they're making it. Okay. But I'm not convinced that they have seasons worth of story to tell here.
Just zombies in general. We need a new thing.
You in particular have really, your generation is the zombie generation. You have been inundated.
It's
with
so
zombie
weird.
Content.
It's like, do something different.
There's always been zombie content out there, but your generation has had like exceptional quantity.
Do you know why that is? Call of Duty. Call of Duty Zombies, I think, is the primary number 1. And then you had The Walking Dead come out when I was a kid, and that's probably number 2 right there. And then everybody else is like, zombies. It's like, come on. We got other things we can do.
Love it.
All right.
Love it. Last and maybe least, Wonder Man.
I can't believe we got footage of this. I didn't even know it was filming.
Right? It's not set to release until sometime in December of 2025. And since, let's see, checks notes, we're in November of 2024. Won't be surprised in the slightest if it gets pushed back. That's just typically the way these things go. So my reaction here was, what? Yep. Okay. Not sure why this is happening or what is happening, except what? Trevor's back?
Out of everything to see, that was the one I'm like, how is he still around?
Ben Kingsley must just be having a ball playing the character of Trevor at this point. Because the guy, as an actor, doesn't need the work. He's done the work. He's got a phenomenal track record. He can pick whatever role he wants. So the fact that he's doing this means 2 things. Marvel's throwing a big fat paycheck at him, as they should. And he's just having an absolute hoot of a time.
I guess.
So
I just like, I thought I wanted to be done.
Yeah. Here's where I'm truly bummed to see Black Manta as Wonder Man.
Agreed.
That's too bad.
I agree. And I'm sure he'll be fine.
Sure.
I'm not really worried about it.
Sure.
No, there's not a lot.
Doesn't seem like the right fit.
I don't have a lot of attachment to Wonder Man, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
But like, he's so much better as
Black Manta.
Black Manta.
I know.
And he did such a good job as a villain. I would have just preferred him to. He would have been cool to see as like I don't know. I would have even taken him as Blade if Marshall Ali wasn't sticking around.
Right.
So it's definitely an odd fit for the character.
Yep.
But we're here.
Yep. It's happening. So, okay then. All right. Those are your Marvel look ahead nuggets for today's pod. Also, we got another Skeleton Crew trailer.
Yep.
How about that?
It's here.
Here's the deal. I'm loving the vibes. Beans. Loving them. John Watts of our Spider-Man trilogy fame. What a great pull to run point on this show. I think he's crushing it. I think he's going to crush it. This to me feels like we've mashed Star Wars, Goonies, and now Indiana Jones together. It's just fun. Star Wars is fun. You know how long it's been since Star Wars has been fun? It's been a piece.
I'm still holding my breath.
It's been a piece.
I'm still holding my breath.
You're going to get it here. You're going to get a chance to breathe, my friend.
I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be like, yeah, it's here.
Yeah. I think you're going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. I can't speak for you. This feels like Star Wars 3 of the Skywalker saga. That's great. First 2 episodes are dropping on December 3rd, so that's about a month out as of today's recording. Very excited for this. They only gave us a couple of minutes in this trailer, which is fine. They're not showing too much. All we know is kids steal spaceship, fly across the galaxy, get lost. Jude Law is present as surrogate dad.
Or is he?
Or is he?
I'm calling that guy.
As you
but
should.
anyways.
No, I believe you. I believe you. Truly, if you haven't watched the trailer, go check it out. There's not a lot to speak to in terms of the where's the story going, so to speak. But part of what I took away that was encouraging is my concern from the original or first trailer was there was a lot of, Star Wars as suburbia. Let's not spend time there. Let's not. That's actually not compelling or interesting. So get us out into the wild Star Wars universe. Great. And so if that's what we're going to do, come on. I'm in. So color me excited. Skeleton Crew. Woo! Coming. All right. Before we get into the final news roundup, really quick segue here. Comics recommendation of the episode. Today's recommendation is for God of Thunder by Jason Aaron. I'll explain why later in the pod this is today's choice. But Jason Aaron is the author, has a tremendous run on Thor. It starts with Thor's conflict with Gorr, the God Butcher. It's illustrated magnificently by Esad Ribic. He does a tremendous, seriously, top tier, best of comics kind of job when it comes to the art. It's outrageous. The story is chef's kiss. It's incredible. So for today's pod, there's your recommendation. Thor, God of Thunder, start with Jason Aaron's run. Number 1. All right. Hey, quick news roundup before we get into the top 5. We have to talk about the per pod Green Lantern casting update. Because yes, we have fresh cast members.
Because why not?
Because why not? Garrett Dillahunt as William Macon and Kelly MacDonald as Sheriff Carey. Who the flip are they? Who really knows? But they're in. These are not Green Lanterns. But what do they have in common as actors? They both had a role in 2007's No Country for Old Men. And that's some legit research right there, folks. Oh.
Yay!
Stick that in your mother-loving news pipe and smoke it. Thank you,
Green Lantern. Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Here's what's funny. In the back of my head, I'm going, William Macon. Man, I've heard that character's name through some Green Lantern comic I've read, but I haven't been able to come up with what the reference was.
You didn't just Google it?
No, I wanted to actually think of it or start paging through my Green Lantern comics and go, yeah, Sheriff Carey, I've got nothing for. So totally new character, I'm pretty sure. But William, yeah, he's in there somewhere. All right.
Interesting.
Beans, it's time.
It's time for our top 5.
For another classic JP and the Beans top 5. Introduce today's top 5, if you would, please, kind sir.
Yeah. In honor of Venom 3 being a total turd, we decided that the top 5 of today would be top 5 symbiotes.
Love it.
In comics and movies and whatever, but mainly comics because let's be honest. What
wasn't a lot to see in the movies.
Correct.
Wasn't a lot to see.
So, top 5 symbiotes overall in our eyes. Mm-hmm. Are you wanting to kick off, or would you like me to kick off?
I would love to go first.
It's all you.
All right. My number 5 is Rascal. First of all, the name. There's a symbiote named Rascal. That's a delight. What a great thing. This guy can't really be that tough, can he? No, actually, he's not, which is why he's number 5 on my list. So how this guy even survives, who's to say? He's an offshoot of another symbiote named Bedlam, which is one of Eddie Brock's temporarily displaced selves, which I don't fully understand, but we got some reading to do to find out more about that. Here's the deal. Rascal is a apparently young, emotional creature that Normie Osborn, okay?
Norman Osborn's grandson.
There you go.
Harry Osborn's kid.
Is bonded to. And Rascal is described as, quote unquote, puppy-like. So there you go. There's my number 5. Oh, and he's totally disconnected from the hive mind. So he's just this rogue, just toddler symbiote.
And
that cracks me up.
And is the Avengers Academy or something like that. So Fantastic. They're training him to be a good person, which is great.
So there you go. My number 5, Rascal.
My number 5, we're staying in the Osborn line.
Ooh, let's go.
I have the Red Goblin at number 5. because nothing is more terrifying than the Green Goblin and the Carnage symbiote teaming up.
Yep.
Okay? This thing was horrifying back in the day. And the end game of that is Norman Osborn thought he was Cletus Cassidy, which is also a terrifying thought process to have. So,
yikes.
Like, just take Green Goblin, turn it up to 11. Yep. I believe, from what I remember, it took Spider-Man rebonding with Venom again to be able to take out Red Goblin. And it took the two of them together to do so.
Yep.
He kills Flash Thompson.
Ouch.
I believe as well. This is where Flash takes the sacrifice fly and dies. So yeah. Red Goblin, number 5 for me.
Number 5. Solid.
Number 4. I have not seen this outside of like images and stuff, but I have Sleeper at number 4 because he's a very unique look and take on a symbiote.
Yep.
He's got the 4 eyes, got the nice little touch of green, but he's mainly black, right? He's more of a guardian for Eddie's son, Dylan. But he looks dope. That's literally why he's number 4.
Hey.
Thinking about it.
Looks are great.
I probably should have switched Red Goblin and Sleeper around, but it's fine.
Looks are great.
Yeah. So I got Sleeper at 4.
I love that. I love that a lot. Yeah, this is going to be such a fun list because our rationales are just going to be absolutely, absolutely wild. Case in point, my number 4 is Grendel. Why? It's a symbiote dragon.
There you go.
That's fantastic. A symbiote dragon? I don't need to say anymore, except that that's awesome. That's freaking
What a
sweet.
dragon-like name, too. Grendel.
Right? It's absolutely...
Sounds German.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, very much so. So that's my number 4, Grendel, a freaking symbiote dragon. Okay, my number 3. I was trying to pick between 2 in particular in this spot. I'm going to go with Toxin. Okay, a couple reasons here. And this has to do with the power set. Toxin has poison fangs. That's the name. Okay, that makes sense. But it's really BA. You got poison fangs, you just bite somebody. You don't even have to do, hey, I ripped their head off or any, tangible physical damage. You just inject a little venom. Done. Toxin, poison fangs. Also resistant to fire. That's helpful. And here's the really key one. Sonic waves, right? Sound is such a barrier for so many a symbiote, but Toxin is a little more resistant than your average symbiote. So my number 3, Toxin.
Nice.
Thank you.
My number 3, we're going to the more classic route now. I have Carnage.
That's great.
Carnage is Marvel's Joker on steroids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's such a staple now in comics, especially with Venom. And to take it from, back in the day when Venom was just a straight up villain to introducing Carnage to kind of make Venom this anti-hero.
Sure.
Because there's just this greater evil, turn him up to 11 because he's stronger than Venom for whatever reason.
Right.
And also, the bond is a lot stronger with Cletus to the point where they are connected by blood, which is odd, right? But yeah, just to see how far that symbiote just keeps getting corrupted and corrupted as time goes on to the point of it doesn't matter who it touches, it's going to drive him insane, a.k.a. Norman Osborn, right? So,
it's quite bad.
Like whenever you see him come out, you're like, oh, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to die for no reason at all. So I got Carnage number 3.
Great pick.
So, yes. My number 2 is the original himself. I have Venom at number 2. Look, Venom's all over the place in the lore, if you think about it. Like, again, you go from the villain when he's first introduced, terrifying, doesn't activate the spider sense for Peter. So Peter is for the first time on his toes, not only as Spider-Man, but also as Peter Parker, because Venom knows his secret identity. Right. So he's showing up in all aspects of Peter's life, both on and off the court. So to have that and watch him turn his life around into the Lethal Protector, and then even talk about the Agent Venom phase when he's with Flash Thompson, that's a lot of people's Venoms. Weirdly enough. Right. And so now he's back with Eddie again, but just to see the progression of that character specifically, I mean, I prefer the anti-hero route for Venom,
Sure.
and I always will.
Sure.
But yeah, so Venom's my number 2. We wouldn't have any of this without Venom. So
it's great. Venom's also my number 2. As you just said, we wouldn't have any of the rest of these options, these characters, without the OG. And the look remains absolutely perfect. Like, you don't have to mess with it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. The skill set compared to other symbiotes may seem simple at this point, but it's no less potent for its simplicity. In fact, it's frankly, one of the draws of the character. Part, I think, what's so incredible about Venom is he has managed to be developed in a way where he doesn't need to have Spider-Man in his stratosphere to matter as a character.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive. The rest of these symbiotes are very, dependent on other characters, whereas Venom has blazed his own trail, so to speak. So that's Venom, number 2.
It's very rare when the villain anti-hero outgrows that role and can be on his own to that success level. Because, you know how much money Venom, the name, makes now for just, hey, let's see this character in a symbiote suit.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man, how much money they make off that.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely wild. All right, my number 1 is All Black, the Necro Sword, hence the recommendation of Thor, the God of Thunder, because All Black, the Necro Sword, is wielded by none other than Gore, the God Butcher, one of the original symbiotes crafted by Null, the great old god of symbiotes. This thing, unique in symbiote land in that it rarely is just a hawking symbiote, right? It's not so much interacting with others as much as it is just a freaking weapon. And malleable, yes. Multifaceted, yes. But never is it wielded with greater effect and impact and just more freaking fun to watch in some weird ways than with Gore, the God Butcher. So that's my number 1, All Black, the Necro Sword.
My number 1 is Anti-Venom, the original Eddie Brock. Mr. Negative gets involved with that, reactivates some things in old Eddie's cancer-ridden body at this point in time. The Anti-Venom symbiote comes up, boom, and then becomes a very integral piece in the Spider Island storyline where everybody gets Spider-Man powers, and it's only Anti-Venom who can take the Spider-Man powers away. I believe he can kill symbiotes too as well. So he has this really unique role in the symbiote ecosystem, because it's not really a symbiote, but it's like it's an anti-symbiote. And now to see it come back, but with Flash Thompson, so we can have Agent Venom along with Venom, and they still exist. They're just different functionally. So you still get that character, just a different little flavor to it. It's great. I think it adds to all of that really well, and it kind of was that, again, it was a more redemptive path for Eddie at this point in time. I believe in his Spider-Man villainary career. I think he was back on the bad guy track and in prison when this happened. So this, I believe, the track to get him back to anti-hero. So, but yeah, no, and actually, fun fact, Spider-Man PS5, Peter Parker becomes Anti-Venom. So he gets a new symbiote mixed with Mr. Negative's powers. And he gets the Anti-Venom symbiote.
Really?
And that's how the second one ends, is he is just the holder of that.
Got it.
So they find unique ways to bring it back. But I love the white and the black too.
It's really cool.
He's a badass. So Anti-Venom is my number 1.
That's really cool.
So
yeah, I think it's been pretty sweet to see how, and this happens with characters across Marvel and across DC, where they go through, let's call it a decade or more long drought where it's like, man, there's really nothing fresh going on with this character. The symbiotes have had quite the run here.
They try it with everybody.
Years. Yeah.
I mean, even Black Widow right now in mainline comics has a symbiote. Like a different one that's like trained, like whatever it's doing.
Yeah.
So
I'm really interested to read Donny Cates' run on Venom.
Oh, I bet it would be interesting. I feel like for sure.
Yeah, that's been on my to read list for a while. And there's a couple a Black Panther run where a symbiote is involved as well that I'm really interested in. So pretty cool stuff.
There you go.
Love it. Beans. That was a whole blast of fun.
It was
whole blast of fun. Anything else for the good people before we take it home?
That's it. We wrap.
All right.
Wrap it up.
Spare yourselves. Don't watch Venom The Last Dance.
No, we did it for you.
We did it for you. You're welcome. Now,
it's over. It's done.
Honor our sacrifice and don't watch it.
Put it to bed.
Just don't.
Don't bring it back.
No, don't. Not.
Don't give Sony your money.
No.
Let them know that this was a failure.
Until Craven comes up, because that's going to be awesome.
Nope.
That's going to be incredible.
We're pirating that movie.
So good.
We've already discussed this.
So good.
We're not giving Sony our money. We are pirating that movie.
Here's the most positive thing I can say.
I mean, allegedly, we are pirating that movie.
By this time, next pod, here's one of the best news nuggets that we didn't say that I can say right now. Deadpool and Wolverine will be available on Disney+.
Amen.
So rewatch that at Timer 5 as opposed to The Last Dance. There you go. All right.
Awesome. On that note, Godspeed.
Peace.